The United States pledges hundreds of millions of dollars in humanitarian aid for struggling African nations. A Tanzanian initiative uses technology and arts to get boys and men thinking about reproductive health. And the hottest new fitness trend fuses yoga, mindfulness, and boxing techniques to come up with a new high cardio workout. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCorry. This is Africa 54. We begin this evening in East Africa, where Kenyan police dispersed protesters calling for election officials to be prosecuted and sacked after last month's contested presidential vote. Kenyan police used tear gas and batons on Tuesday to break up demonstrations near the Election Commission headquarters in Nairobi, calling for election officials to be prosecuted and fired before a rerun of the presidential election. According to a witness, when the protesters regrouped, security officers fired more tear gas and beat some of them with batons. Raila Odinga, who lost his bid to be elected president on August the 8th, will get another chance when the vote is rerun after the Supreme Court annulled the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta, citing irregularities. In West Africa, a series of clashes in southeastern Nigeria between government security forces and separatists calling for the creation of the Republic of Biafra has heightened tensions across the region. The separatists have been branded terrorists by the Nigerian government, and the whereabouts of their leader, Nnamdi Kanu, remains unknown. Reporter Chika Odo just returned from the region and now joins me via Skype from Dakar, Senegal. Good evening, Chika.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. Now, you know, you have been there. It's such a sensitive topic in that region of Nigeria. What are the people on the ground telling you?
You know, you're absolutely right. This is a very sensitive topic. And just keep in mind that the Biafra separatist movement has gone on for the past 50 years. But in recent times, it has drastically grown, largely because of the way the people in southeastern Nigeria feel that they're being continuously marginalized by the Nigerian federal government, which is headed by President Muhammadu Buhari. Southeastern Nigerians, which mostly belong to the Igbo ethnic group, say that the government of Nigeria is led by Muslims who want to suppress Christians in the South. Again, this is just a perception, but this is something that you will hear quite often amongst people in Southeastern Nigeria.
Now, one would have hoped that dialogue would be perhaps the best option, but by the government declaring this group a terrorist organization, does that help matters? What do organization officials on the ground tell you?
It doesn't help matters at all, really, because, again, Nigerians just want the president to just have dialogue. But the president's body language has been one of aggression. He's been very, he's had a no-tolerance stance on the Biafra movement. The Nigerian president, let's remember, he was a Nigerian soldier. President Buhari fought during the Nigerian Civil War to suppress Biafra. So the president has memories of what happened in the Civil War when he was a young soldier. And now, as president of Nigeria, he has said he will not tolerate the Biafra movement. And he's spoken in a very strong language. And people say that declaring the group a terrorist organization can only aggravate tensions even further. And it can also cause people who did not support Biafra to support them, just because of the heavy-handed nature that the Nigerian government is taking on this issue.
Now, a lot actually comes out of that region, especially on social media. We have been getting even video of people purporting to have videotaped officials, soldiers actually, like killing civilians. Did you really get any evidence to support that?
Well, there have been instances of heavy-handedness by the Nigerian security forces. Even a cousin of mine, he was, beaten at one protest. I do have relatives who have experiences. I do come from that region, so I do have firsthand experience of people who have been beaten. But some of the videos, we don't know how authentic they are. The Nigerian government is claiming that the videos have been doctored, which is kind of a wild claim. Even Amnesty International has reported that the government has been quite heavy-handed on the Biafra separatists. So Nigerian government officials, security officials, do have a history of being quite aggressive against the civilians. So this is not a surprise.
Mm-hmm. Well, we just hope things will hopefully get better somewhere along the way. Chika, thank you very much for your reporting. That's reporter Chika Udua joining us live from Dakar in Senegal. You know, João Lourenço was sworn Tuesday as Angola's president, succeeding José Eduardo dos Santos, who has been at the helm of the nation for the past 38 years. Now, Lourenço is pledging to revive Africa's third largest economy and tackle rampant corruption in what he calls an economic miracle. For more on Angola's new president, I'm joined by João Santa Rita, VOA Portuguese reporter and host of a daily 30-minute radio show on Angola. João, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, now the new president sworn in today. First, what did he say that you think stood out?
Well, I think there are 3 points in this speech that really, for me and for other people I've been talking to, our stringers in Angola, stood out. The first is that he emphasized the fight against corruption, which has been one of the main topics in his campaign. Second, he promised that there will be more opening on the state media. He said that the government and government official and MPLA party leaders must get used to live under criticism. And so he wants according to what he said, he wants the state media to be more open to opposition points of view. This was a big criticism during the election campaign, that the opposition parties hardly had any time in the state-controlled media. Mm-hmm. And third, I think this is a very important point, he said that he wants to have a more opening to the civil society and that he wants to have regular meetings with Angolan NGOs. Yeah. There are many. And so I think these are the 3 main points that stood out in his speech.
But the fact remains, he's still from the same party as the outgoing president. Question is, and he said actually that he will make sure he's not a puppet of the outgoing president. Yeah. Is there any evidence that the party can shift in its policies, or this one man can actually steer the country away from the influence of the former president?
Well, there's a saying in Portuguese, and this is what a guy from UNITA, the main opposition party, says, ver para crer, which means see to believe. Exactly. Okay? Yeah. And so it remains to be seen. Of course, we don't know who's going to go into the government. During the campaign, it was interesting that he had said at a certain point that he was ready to have people who are not from the party in his government. And I gather there's been some contacts between him and certain former elements of the MPLA that along the years have left because they were disappointed. Yeah. And so they might be called in.
But then Eduardo dos Santos remains the president of the party.
Exactly.
Which in some respects someone would think might have influence even in how people are selected into government.
Absolutely. I mean, that's going to be very interesting. Now, what a guy from the party told me is that, look, João Lourenço is also a part of the political bureau where the decisions are taken. And therefore, all the decisions are going to be taken after a debate. And what João Lourenço said in the speech is that he's not going to be the president of the MPLA, he's going to be the president of the state. And therefore, there will be 2 different things. Now, these things, as you know, take time.
Sure. We'll wait to see.
Exactly.
And then we'll make an assessment. Whatever that is. Thank you very much, João, as always. Well, João Santa Rita is a VOA Portuguese reporter. Now, African nations continue to grapple with the threat of terrorism in West Africa. The U.S. is working closely with regional governments to bolster their capacity to fight against terrorism. In a recent interview with VOA's Idris Afal, Nabo Nushingi, U.S. ambassador to Senegal, talked about the relationship between the United States and Senegal.
We are happy to be collaborating with them. We have our defense cooperation agreement here. We have our defense attaché office here, and we are working in the sense of not only the training, but also in the sense of equipment because all those have to go together. The other thing I just want to add as far as talking about terrorism is that we have to approach it also from different angles. It's the transnational issue has to be addressed by transnational means. So the other means we have is that we have to approach it not only on the development, on diplomacy, but also on development, because we have to address the economic side of it to get to really the root causes, what causes this extremism in the world. And if we can do all those three, increase our development, increase our diplomacy, and increase our defense, I think we can position ourselves, we can put ourselves in a better position than we were in yesterday or the day before yesterday.
Well, that was Tuinabo Noshinge, who is the U.S. ambassador to Senegal. Now, fierce debate continues in Uganda over the ruling party's plans to remove the presidential age limit from the constitution. Parliament is expected to again take up the issue this week, with the opposition pledging to continue its resistance. Uganda's constitution sets the presidential age limit at 75, meaning that longtime President Yoweri Museveni will be ineligible to run in the next elections in 2021. Halima Athumani reports from Kampala.
Plans to scrap the presidential age limit in Uganda have met resistance both on the streets and in parliament. Opposition lawmakers last week prevented the ruling party from introducing a motion seeking leave to propose the constitutional amendment. Critics of the age limit say it is discriminatory. Proponents say the age limit was included in the constitution to encourage the peaceful democratic transfer of power, something that Uganda is yet to experience. Despite a wave of arrests this month, the opposition says it will not back down.
It's not about the principle of age as to whether a 75-year-old cannot be president or not. That is vital in this consideration. It is whether it can check the presidency of Mr. Museveni, who ascended to power through force of arms and has stayed in power with the assistance of the military rather than the free will of the people of Uganda.
Elias Lukwago, the Lord Mayor of Kampala, was detained on September 18th, accused of trying to organize a protest.
They tore my clothes, they lifted me high, they kicked me, they harangued me, they all grabbed me and dumped me in a waiting truck because they come with a van. I think it is a custom-made van intended for that particular purpose. It looks like these trucks normally used to carry hound dogs.
Police have also raided the Kampala office of the international NGO Action Aid, confiscating documents and computers. Country Director Arthur LaRocque opposes lifting the presidential age limit.
As civil society, we are opposed to it completely, and we will do everything in our means to mobilize people, educate them, so they understand the dangers of Uganda has never had a peaceful transition since independence.
In 2005, Parliament scrapped presidential term limits from the Constitution. When it comes to the age limit, the ruling party says it is acting within the law.
My humble appeal to whoever is opposed to the bill and those who are supporting the bill, that we members of Parliament who are supporting it are doing what is within the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda.
Both sides are holding firm as the age limit debate returns to Parliament. Halima Athumani for VOA News, Kampala.
Well, this month, the U.S. pledged hundreds of millions of dollars in humanitarian aid for African nations struggling with food insecurity and violence, as well as new programs to fight malaria. The policies announced during the UN General Assembly are among the Trump administration's most significant new African initiatives. But as VOA's Mariama Diallo reports, some of President Trump's remarks to an audience of African leaders raised eyebrows.
At a luncheon with African leaders on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly, President Donald Trump says he'll send his UN ambassador to Africa to discuss conflict resolution.
We're closely monitoring and deeply disturbed by the ongoing violence in South Sudan and in the Congo. Millions of lives are at risk, and we continue to provide humanitarian assistance.
$575 million is aimed at programs addressing violence and famine in South Sudan, Nigeria, Somalia, and Yemen, says USAID Administrator Mark Green.
It's everything from, again, food distributions to immunizations to make sure that we are dealing with health needs to, when we can, beginning to look at resilience in food production and the local economy.
In the fight against malaria, there are new programs in Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Niger, and Sierra Leone. Some of the funding is new money, Green says, but other funds will come from existing programs. African Union Chairman and President of Guinea, Alpha Condé, took advantage of the opportunity of meeting President Trump to make this case.
Africa needs substantial investments for the emergence of a vibrant and resilient private sector, which can contribute to the enormous employment and empowerment needs of women and young people.
A call echoed by outgoing Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in this interview with VOA.
That's why officially we've done a whole lot. Because of our environment, the lack of infrastructure, you know, basic things like roads and power upon which manufacturing and industry are based. Now that those things are now beginning to come on stream as a result of our work, they'll be able to attract U.S. private investment.
In highlighting the opportunities that exist in Africa, President Trump referred not once but twice to the non-existent country of Nambia and said many of his friends are going to the continent to get rich. Although he was heavily criticized for his comments, American University professor Kweku Nwama said on Skype he wasn't particularly offended.
People invest in your country not necessarily because they want to help you. They want to help themselves too, and there's nothing wrong with that. They can get rich as long as Africans also get rich from the relationship. And hopefully, that's what's happening. Hopefully his friends are not going there to loot, but they're going there to create opportunities for everybody.
Nwama added that Africa doesn't have to have famine for the world to take notice. He says a true mutually beneficial relationship should go beyond responding to crises. Mariama Diallo, VOA News, Washington.
Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends also. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Coming up, how Tanzania is helping raise awareness of reproductive health among men and boys. Stay with us.
News and notes. This is Living Better.
There's a new virtual reality treatment for the condition called lazy eye, which has long been considered untreatable in adults. Lazy eye occurs when the brain ignores information from one eye, typically resulting in two-dimensional vision. At a clinic in Martin, Slovakia, adult patients are using VR to train their eyes away from the condition. Optic doctor Rustan Holm.
You put on a special game where you have a spaceship and you have to follow the spaceship through certain markers. And by doing that, you have to use both eyes, and therefore you are training both eyes to work better together.
Since 2015, Slovakia's UVEA clinic has treated patients like Patrick Turek. He says he's been using the virtual reality treatment for only a month, and already his vision has been shown to be improving. I'm Martin Seacrest for VOA's Living Better.
Well, it's time now for our health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lina Amadou with an update on super malaria. Hello, Lina, what's there?
Hello, Vincent. Scientists warn the rapid spread of super malaria in Southeast Asia is an alarming global threat. They say this dangerous form of the malaria parasite cannot be killed with the main anti-malaria drugs. It emerged in Cambodia but has since spread through parts of Thailand, Laos, and has arrived in southern Vietnam. The team of Mahidol Oxford Tropical Medicine Research Unit in Bangkok says there is a real danger of malaria becoming untreatable. In a letter published in the Lancet Infectious Diseases, the researchers detailed the, quote, recent sinister development that has seen resistance to the drug artemisinin emerge. The researchers say the treatment is failing around a third of the time in Vietnam, while in some regions of Cambodia, the failure rate was closer to 60%. Now, scientists have engineered an antibody that attacks 99% of HIV strains and can prevent infections in primates. It is built to attack 3 critical parts of the virus, making it harder for HIV to resist its effects. Researchers have been trying to use broadly neutralizing antibodies as a way to treat HIV or prevent infection in the first place. The study published in the journal Science combines 3 such antibodies into an even more powerful tri-specific antibody. The researchers say they are more potent and have greater breadth than any single naturally occurring antibody that's been discovered. Human trials will start in 2018 to see if it can prevent or treat infection. The work is a collaboration between the U.S. National Institutes of Health and the pharmaceutical company Sanofi. Now, a new initiative in Tanzania is using technology and arts to reach men and boys and get them involved in sexual reproductive health issues. Harakati za Lucy is an animated series that explores the life of a young Tanzanian girl who faces different challenges growing up. The show tackles various topics around sex, including early marriage. The series was created by the youth-led NGO TAI. The organization recently won a grant of $6,000 through the AMWA Accelerator, a program that supports solutions involving sexual reproductive health issues. It is supported by the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. Guamaka Mwabuka is a producer on the show.
They had 5 statements that they wanted all youth that has innovative ideas in this area. They should come together and build the idea up so that they become stronger and then get the seed fund to be able to implement the idea. And for us, we fit in by covering the area of influencing or educating men and boys to participate in SRH issues.
AMWA offers creators a 6-month training program, seed funding, and skills development, like they do for various other entrepreneurs working on youth-friendly initiatives. Similar groups in the country have come up with art solutions that address family planning, maternal health, and other population development issues.
It's going to help the young people, but it's also going to help increasing access to sexual reproductive health, but also addressing some of the bottlenecks which are affecting the provision of sexual and reproductive health, information, education, and services.
About 19% of Tanzania's population is between 15 to 24 years old. The UN Populations Fund says failure to invest in the youth population could have an implication on the country's health and development plans. 500 kilometers from Dar es Salaam, the Mwaka Arts Group is using drama and music to educate audiences on reproductive health and sexuality.
Art is the cheapest way to reach people. For example, we organize a concert which will bring information through drama and music.
The Populations Fund says they want to guide, educate, and empower young innovators to increase their chances of developing good products that will ultimately generate employment. The program has already supported 2,700 young people through boot camps and sexual reproductive health information sessions across East Africa. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter @LenorMdou. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, thank you very much, Lenore. Now be sure to watch Lenore Mdou's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. The latest fitness trend targets the body and the mind. We'll be right back.
We have information that from
Oromo have been targeted. And there are more than 3,000 Oromos have been displaced from the Somaliland, and now they are in the Somali regional states.
Upon commencement of the trial, by operation of law, his bail was terminated. So the defense had to make an application for revival of his bail.
You know, I have a impeccable record that cannot be beaten.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. A high-tech county launches a low-tech solution to weeds. Using goats for weed control has been gaining popularity in Japan in recent years, with the grass-eating animals now appearing everywhere, from parking lots to campuses and even hospitals. Now, compared with traditional chemical or mechanical options, these living weed busters are eco-friendly and make little, if any, noise. The nimble climbers require no human assistance and can graze in even difficult-to-access corners. Their big appetite qualifies them as effective mowers who often draw extra attention due to their adorable appearance. Now, next up, a British organization is fighting back against so-called fake news and is helping to make media reporting more accurate. London-based charity Full Fact is trying to help reporters get the right information they need to counter false information trends. The independent organization has launched 2 new tools to help journalists easily fact-check as they write and report. Full Fact's live tool compares subtitles streaming in from major British TV networks and Prime Minister's questions in Parliament against established facts. The truth isn't always clear-cut, so a Full Fact's analyses aren't either. A lot of the time, they provide context for a statement rather than a black or white answer. And finally, fitness fans in California are fusing yoga, mindfulness, and boxing techniques to come up with a new high cardio workout. This 45-minute heart-pounding class is still gentler than a normal boxing class, combining shadow boxing with heavy drills on the bag with mindfulness and reflection. Box Union is an offshoot of another fitness trend called Soul Cycle, which uses the same motivational instructional element. Now, the class is a full-body workout with cardio, core work, and plyometrics, which basically means exerting explosions of energy like jumping. And that is what is trending today. Well, and that's our show for today. Now, be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC. That's Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching from all of us in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. This phrase sounds pretty simple, but it's actually a warning.
Hey Anna, how's your apartment search going?
It's going okay. I found a really great place in a fun neighborhood, and it's a great price.
Oh, that's great. So what's the problem?
The apartment manager